Hi, so I just finished reading Stumbling on Happiness by Dan Gilbert, and this book seriously couldn't have come at a better time for me to read because, as it is right now with the pandemic and how that's kind of changed my views on how things should be and how I should live my life in the future, especially after losing some of my friends because of course, like my high school ended up abruptly, and now I'm not as close as to some of my friends as I am, and it kind of sucks because I thought things weren't supposed to end the way that they are right now, but even more so the way that the future is just so hazy and so unclear with exactly what's going to happen. For me, I've worked very hard to get into college. I got into a pretty good college, and now it seems as if that sort of college experience won't ever be kind of the same anymore. And I'm doubting whether that's going to be a good or like a good thing for me, because right now like it just seems like I won't be able to leave my house, or I won't actually be able to go to the college campus. So all of this clouds of uncertainty makes me feel kind of very anxious and nervous and generally the opposite of happiness, which is like miserable and unhappy. And what Dan Gilbert tries to argue is that, like, when I keep thinking about my, like, so first of all, what Dan Gilbert tries to argue is that we are horrible predictors of our happiness. Fact. And he spends the entire book debunking the methods in which we predict our happiness, either predicting the future, happiness in the future, either predicting the future from past experiences, present experiences, or other people's experiences. And they're all sorts of fallacies. I won't explain all of them because you'll have to read this brilliant book for that. But essentially, what he says is that we keep muzzling up how we think we're gonna feel in the future, because how we currently feel and how previous experiences have led up to that sort of kind of like formulation of how we're gonna feel. And to simplify this and not get into deeply technical jargon, basically, I cannot predict my own happiness is because my life as it is right now, I am only choosing kind of to remember the horrible kind of things that happened to me, or the things that stood out the most. And by only focusing on a couple of experiences within my life, I do not focus on the things that haven't happened in my life. And it's the same with the future, because I use this exact same tactic to predict the future for me. And I'm like, okay, so in the future I'm going to do this job, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to major in this field, and perhaps I'll get into a good job, and then this is my career, and then this is how I'm going to repay my parents and whatever, and then my whole life goes into a sequence after that. But what Dan Gilbert says is that that is a formula for disaster, essentially, because we do not have any but because by first of all focusing on that sort of narrow perception on how life should be, I do not take into account all of the things that don't or could happen at the same time. And because there are so many things that could happen in the future at the same time, it thus becomes very sort of pointless to come up with such fixed paths to everything that we have in the future. And yeah, like these words definitely stuck with me, because right now, as I told you, I'm deeply thinking about my future, and I just keep thinking about what exactly it is that I want to do in the future, and like how am I supposed to help people? Am I supposed to make money when I grow up? How will I kind of reimburse my parents with the tuition, the crazy sort of tuition that college is asking me for? And all these questions keep gnawing away at my consciousness, my existence, and it makes me miserable, because I'm like, okay, now I have to go take this course, take this course, take this course, look at the return on investment of this in 10 years. And that only then, after I've completed all these checklists, will I truly be happy. But then again, I probably still will be equally as miserable then as I am right now. And Dan Gilbert says that you should forget literally about trying to predict the future of your actions, and how that, like, for me, how will choosing a particular type of path or career make me happy or not. He says that forsake all of that sort of foresight planning. Instead, instead of just, like the cliche live in the moment, that's much harder than it is to do. He doesn't say completely abandon the future. He says to take into consideration things that you usually don't take into consideration. Things like, oh, will I be working these many hours at the job, or like, what else could I be doing with my time? Do I only have to choose a career that is in demand? What other sort of things can I do at college that don't necessarily have to just go to the sole purpose of reimbursing my parents with my tuition money? And yeah, that's like it's opening up a lot of perspective for me. And what Dan Gilbert also proposes, I won't spoil the book. Like I've said a lot of things, but I won't say his like sort of secret kind of formula, which he goes on to make a mockery of that entire industry of happiness selling. But I won't go to spoil that. But he kind of really reassures me in saying that you don't have to have anything figured out in any point of your life. As an adolescent going to college, I think this sort of work really, really helped me realize that. And not only that, but he helped me realize that there are a lot of things that I am doing wrong with how I'm measuring my happiness. And even though I'm doing it wrong, I'm still doing it right now. And it's crazy because, again, after reading this book, I start to see those things more clearly now. And perhaps by implementing some of the techniques that he says here, for example, like not just comparing, like trying to remember things that didn't happen as opposed to things that just happened, perhaps that could completely take a twist on how I live out my life and be happier. Yeah, so definitely a thought provoker and definitely a really, really good book. And I'm interested in whenever he hears or whenever I view this video again, let's see if things are different and if Dan Gilbert and his psychological kind of phenomena, his explanation of psychological phenomena behind happiness actually kind of makes sort of a difference in my life. And I actually come back to this and perhaps see how I've grown. Yeah, and I really, really do recommend this for anyone out there. It's amazing. And I genuinely believe that it'll have a positive difference in your life. And I think the last line is absolutely amazing. Yeah, this is peace out.